Okay, testing, testing, awesome. Okay guys, so when you guys open up After Effects, it should look a little bit something like this, all right? So what we have, and if it doesn't, you can always go into Windows, Workspace, reset default to saved layout, and oh, perfect! It will basically just kind of do a quick reset. Sometimes that'll happen whenever you guys have an issue, like let's say you're working on something and then this happens, and then I don't know, something else happens, and you guys it just looks completely like out of whack. You just go up to Window, Workspace, reset to default layout, boom, abracadabra. All right, so first thing I always do when I open up an After Effects file is I usually save, and I'll save as. And in this situation, I will go into desktop and let's see, AE titles. And I usually put everything in the project folder. So this is going to be a setup. I'm going to show you guys for your midterm and your final specifically. I usually prefer a setup to show. It helps me see that you guys are able to, like for the midterm and for the final, I'll also look at your After Effects files to see how well organized you guys are, to see if you guys understand how to navigate and how to set up a project. Project files, that's where my After Effects project files will go. Final output will be where my video goes, and then assets, that's usually where I keep anything that I'm going to be importing. So since this is a project that I'm working on, I'm just going to go, I'm going to AE demo, so there we go, and now we've saved it. Okay, so you have several different windows here. You have the project window. So this is basically like an overview of your project. It's going to show you really what elements you're importing in, what your compositions are, and your composition, think of that as almost like a container that has all your elements. So that's basically what your project is. Essentially, it's called a composition. Okay, so it's going to have different layers. It's going to have different things that you brought in, whether it's music, whether it's video, imagery, text layers. That's basically, think of that as almost kind of like the container that's going to have everything for your project. There's different settings. You can also change the settings of your composition even after you create one. And your composition is usually previewed here in this window. Okay, so let's see. You can also create a new composition this way, and I'll show you guys that in just a second. You have your timeline now for you guys who've used software like Premiere, Final Cut. Any of that, you'll know that videos usually have a timeline. So in this case with After Effects, and I'm sure Premiere also has the same principles, is that things will be layered. So if you have video on one layer and if you need to see text, your text layer is going to be on top of that video layer, which I'll show you guys through the demonstration. Here you've got your different windows that are going to be open. Usually the preview window is the one I'm always going to want to be open. Sometimes I'll also undock it so I can get to have all the other little tools. So it's this is usually what I'll have open if I want to preview my my composition, my project. You also have different your effects here, which we'll get more into as time goes on. I always tell people, especially if you're doing quick motion graphics, don't get too in love with the effects. Sometimes they're going to become more trouble than they're worth, especially when you're new at this. So in other words, I would much prefer you guys get more comfortable with the layers, with the tools. Those are going to be more helpful with you guys when you guys are going to be working on these kinds of projects going forward, not just in this classroom, but also when you guys are working on projects on your own, you're going to be asked to help out with these things. So let me start off by, in this case, I'm going to quickly create a new composition, and you can do this of several different ways. You can click on this button right here. You can click on this little icon right here, create a new composition, or, and I usually will start off my lessons with you guys really kind of understanding, really kind of using this toolbar up here on top. So composition, new composition, Control N or Command N. So I'm just going to call this demo. And the presets, usually, in my case, I usually have this 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. So this is basically showing you the aspect ratio right here. I usually keep this locked. The frame rate. Now, usually, most projects are going to have between 24 and 30 frames per second. I usually will have mine at 24. The higher the frame rate, the smoother the animation is going to look. However, it will also take up a lot more caching and memory on your computer. So just try to keep that in mind. Try to kind of keep it, I would say, no less than 24 frames per second. But if you want your motion graphics to look a little nicer, a little bit more smooth, push it up to maybe 29.9 or 30. Okay, don't go here. You know, unless you've got a massive computer that can handle it. Really just kind of keep it no higher than 30, just my opinion. Does anybody understand the concept of 24 frames per second? Okay, all right. Do you want to explain, or?
Yeah, so that's like the number of frames that's necessary to create a fluid motion based on how we see things. So the movies will shoot at 24 frames and have a shutter to be able to keep that motion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Soap opera could do like 60 frames or something like that.
Yeah, 60. Yeah, unless you really want to cook your computer, and I've seen it happen. So my advice too, if you guys are working on laptops, do not work on your bedspread. Do not work on a dinner mat. Keep it on a nice cool surface, because this will heat up your computer real quickly, and your computer's going to need all the ventilation it needs. All right. So moral of the story, try to keep it between 24 and 30. All right. So as you can see, voila, now we've got a little something here called a demo. It's a composition, and we got a little timeline here, guys. Okay, so right now, just kind of, there we go. Here's my existential void of nothing. So as you can see, if I preview, by the way, we'll get more into the tools here, but as you can see, nothing's happening. But let me quickly show you what these tools are. So here, down here, you have the timeline. What we have is, this is the time ruler. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is showing us basically like how long this is going to this composition is going to be, 15 seconds. We can also make it shorter. We've got the work area, which is this thick gray bar down here. So this is basically the area that, let's say, that we want to get rendered or we want playable. This is basically our way of just saying, hey, this highlighted area, this is the area that we want to use. We also have part of the time ruler here, which is almost kind of like this thin line right here. This is almost like an hour, like not this one. This one's our time indicator. Let me just kind of stretch this back out here. There we go. So up here we've got, basically this is part of our time ruler. But think of it as a magnifying glass. So as you can see, I'm taking the blue bracket that's here and I'm pulling it. Right here, this little thin line, this is our time indicator. This is basically showing where things are in the specific point of time. And I'm just dragging it. Look at that. Okay. So as you guys can see how this time ruler just stretched? So not only are you seeing the seconds inside the time ruler, but now you're seeing the frames inside the time ruler. Okay? So that's the cool thing. Like if you really need to kind of edit something down to the frame, that's the best way to do it. Okay, so let me stretch this out back. So one of the things that I forgot to show you is, let me adjust the settings in our composition. So if I need to do that, I can go right into here, where these three lines are, and then go into composition settings, or I can go up to here and composition settings. So what that does is it reopens up the window that we just saw. So here's something that I forgot to mention. So you see where it says start time code? For the most part, you want everything to be set at 0, okay? So everything here set at 0, that means this project is going to have, is going to start at 0. Duration, okay, so right now, like I said, it's at 15 seconds. Sometimes, depending on what the defaults are in the settings, sometimes it'll be at 30 seconds, sometimes it'll be 10 seconds. Some people will prefer that. You can always adjust after the fact. Okay, so right now we have it at 15. Let's say I just want to make it 10. So let me show you how these zeros are set up. Here we have the frames. These are the seconds, minutes, hours. I would say if you're going to need to be using that at some point, hours, oof, okay, hope you have a good computer with great air conditioning. All right. Background color is black. This is basically the default black background color, as you can see here, but you can change it if you need to make it red, make it blue, you know, make it white. That's fine. So basically what this does is essentially, like, if you need to render something and you want to make sure, like, you turn off the transparency, it's going to render everything with a black background. All right, so let's see. So we're down. I'm going to actually make this 10 seconds. Okay, just to show you, and I'm going to press OK. Now, as you guys can see, the time ruler made it to 10 seconds. If I were to go in there again, I know this is kind of like some of the boring stuff, guys. So, but hopefully, you know, this will at least, you know, give you some insight with the tools. So I'm going to press OK, and as you guys can see, well, we're still at 10, but once I take this top bar here to kind of to stretch it out, it's showing us the complete length of the new 20 seconds in our timeline. So if you guys need to make adjustments with your timeline, that's a good way to go about it. So, you know, whenever you guys are planning on something, you know, getting things to kind of work, you know, this is the best way for you guys to kind of like, okay, you know, just make your adjustments, and you can always adjust it after the fact. Now, I'm also going to show you guys here, this right here, this is basically, I call this the title grid, or title action safe grid. This, I want to see you guys using religiously, okay? So what this does, I'll show you. This creates, if you guys can see here, these thin gray lines, this right here is the exact center of your composition, okay? It will adjust itself depending on whatever your composition size is going to be. But the awesome thing about this is that, you know, if you guys need to make clean, easy to read titles, this is the best way to do it. And the reason why we call it the title action safe grid is basically the more closer you are to the center, the easier it will be for your viewer to see, okay? We are basically programmed to look ahead of us, okay? So whenever you see titles, the best titles are the ones that are seen in right almost in the center. Try to kind of keep your animations as far away from this zone as possible. Think of this as almost kind of like a bleed. So whatever, you know, if you guys ever worked with print before, you guys might know things about margins, things about bleeds. You guys want to kind of minimize your stuff as away from these as much as possible. When you guys do lower thirds, usually you're going to kind of keep everything around, you know, in this region or in this region. You really don't want to go beyond this or this, okay? Or so we will get more into that as things progress. I'll also show you guys Command R opens up the rulers, okay? And you can use this to measure. But the cool thing, what I like to use with this is you can also go over to the side or to wherever your rulers are, click, drag, boom, you got a guide. Click, drag, you got a guide. So if you need to kind of figure out where something needs to be specifically inside your composition, this is the best way to do it. And if you go into View, and you'll notice that down here you can, if you need to make sure things snap to your guides, I'll show you how that would work. But snap to guides, lock guides. That way, this way you don't accidentally move your guide. Or if you need to unlock that, just basically click on the lock to unlock it. And now, as you can see, as the cursor can go over, now I can kind of move and adjust as I see fit. And then lock, Or if you need to just say, you know what, I'm just going to clear guides for right now. Boom, I don't need them right now. So that, that'll show you some of the tools. Now that will hopefully give you guys an idea as to how to organize your space. But now we're going to get into some of the fun part. Now I'm going to bring in a video, because right now I'm looking at this existential black void. I need to kind of fill it with something. So one of the things that you'll notice that every time anything is highlighted here in the project window, you get a little thumbnail of it right here. Okay, and it'll give you like the broad strokes: 1920 by 1080, 20 seconds, 24 frames per second. So now what I want to do is I want to go into File, Import, File, and I'm going to, wherever I put my assets, let's see, yeah, we'll just use this one for right now. And you want to make sure import as footage. Perfect. Open it up. All right, so now we have a video. But right now what we need to do is now we need to bring the video from here down to here. So you just click and you just drag, boom, there you go. So, nice, nice, beautiful, gosh, coming from the Northeast, I kind of missed this, but then again, try driving in it. So now you got this nice snowy background. So you got a bit of a, you got this nice animated video background, and what you can do, since I brought this down into the composition, I can adjust my layer by clicking and dragging. So I want it to stop at a certain point. I could do that, or if you want to, you can also, you'll notice that whenever you bring something in, you'll have like if the layer has this end with a little black triangle, that's basically telling you that's the end of the layer. So that's the end of any visible content. You can make an adjustment. So let's say I bring it all the way here. As you can see, the moment I pulled it away from the indicator, it went completely black until I brought it back. What I could also do is, if I needed to, I can kind of take the end and I can basically roll it back, and what that does is essentially mutes that part of the layer. So I'm sure you guys have worked at something similar. I'm not too familiar with how Premiere works, but I think you guys can kind of like cut video to a certain degree. So yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to bring this back down to 10, and I'm actually going to take this, the work area, and I'm actually going to take the blue bracket, and I'm going to drag it down to 10 seconds, and I'm going to trim comp to work area. And that's how you, basically the manual way you can kind of adjust this sort of thing. So let's see. What I want to do now is I want to put a title in here. So again, it's pretty straightforward. You just go into Layer, New, Text. And right now we've got a nice little text layer that opened up. So right now, as you guys can see, we have essentially, we've got a nice little cursor here, and judging from the size of this, it's going to be a rather large text. So I'm just going to quickly just bring it down to a more manageable size, maybe 72. All right, so let's see. You can pretty much type in anything. And I, as a rule of thumb, when it comes to text, I usually will make it large. I will basically adjust the size of it here with the font size first before I adjust the layer size, and we'll get more into that. So let's see, I'm going to type in After. By the way, guys, I'm a terrible typist, so it takes me a while. All right, so we've got After Effects demo. Ooh. So since we've got a very light background, one of the things I'm going to address is contrast. Okay, So right now I'm actually going to make this more of a darker blue. Let's pick up some of the dark color that's here. Nice. And I'm going to make it large. And I'm also going to break up the text. And this is impact. Again, bold fonts are usually one of the ways to go. I always tell people simple fonts, especially when you're doing things like titles, can be an easy way to go. It's not always a must, but you can also go with, let's see, maybe, what else? Let's try this one. Ooh, never mind. I have a friend of mine, and she's like she's a font nerd, and I love. And she gets me excited about fonts. But yeah, if you know, she's like somebody who's like the one thing that she and I can agree on: no Papyrus, no Comic Sans. Please don't use Comic Sans. Please don't use Comic Sans. I'm serious. That makes me cry. All right. I think that's it. Let's see. Let's do auto, and let's see, I think that's okay. So I always like to check here first, guys, because sometimes settings could be a little off and people can play around with it. But I always try to get, I always try to tell people, work on, tweak things here. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Oh, wow, how exciting. Okay, so let's do something let's give it a little bit of a punch. I'm going to go in and I'm actually going to, as a rule of thumb, I usually kind of give about 2 seconds before I have any animation show up on screen. So one of the ways I kind of like space things out is I like to use this little device right here called a comp marker. So what this does is if I click on it, this is our time indicator, and as you guys can see, it basically is wherever we are specifically in the timeline. So 2 seconds, I'm going to click on it. All right, so as you can see, we got our little comp marker here. So what this does, and you can move it around, you can adjust it, you can double click on it, and you can actually give it, just label it, title appears. And you can even give it a color, nice little purple. And we'll get more into this when we're getting into, what do you call it, the lyric video. So as you can see now, we've got a nice little marker here that shows us where we want things. Like when you guys do editing, I'm sure you guys have to kind of visually plan in your timeline to see where things need to go. Pretty much the same principle exists. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take the very end of this layer and I'm going to pull it back. So this way, boom, it just like, hits you right in the face, metaphorically. And then I'm just going to go here, and if you really kind of want to plan things out, you can also like put like demo gone or title gone. And again, I'm a terrible typist. And we'll do, lavender, why not? I like lavender. There we go. So I'm basically, the reason why I'm doing all this is to kind of help organize my space and also save frequently. And also label your layers, guys, because these projects can get out of hand real quick, where you have layers upon comps, and you want to make sure that you're as organized as possible. Okay, so there we go. So we have this nice little block in. Now, as coming from somebody who's in animation, I do things called block-ins. I basically will just kind of block in the images instead of just like, usually I will just I'll have my title set up first, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to block in where it's going to appear and when it's not going to appear. And it's essentially, I find that that kind of helps me at least get the foundation of my project all ready and all done. So let's see. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ease this thing in. So I'm going to go into transform. Now, one thing you guys will also know is that every visual layer, the only with the exception of like music or any sound files, anything that has visuals in it is going to have 5 property transform nodes. So what these do is these are essentially the basics. You have anchor point, which adjusts the anchor point. You have position, which adjusts the position. So position and anchor point are very different. One involves the anchor point itself and the object's relation to that anchor point, but position involves the where the layer is specifically on your comp. So it's all related to the anchor point right here. As you can see, this little tiny dot right there, that red dot is the anchor point to this text layer. You have scale, which is, when it comes to text layers, I usually will make sure that I adjust the text here first, and then if I want to make like an animation with a scale, then that's where this will come in. You've got rotation, and then you have opacity. Okay, so what we're going to do is one of the first things that I like to do is I actually like to create like a keyframe. So right now this is where I want my After Effects demo to be, or my title. So I'm going to hit opacity right here. So it's at 100%. So what a keyframe does, okay, as you guys can see right here, I've got this little diamond. What a keyframe does is basically establishes the properties of that layer at that specific point in the timeline, okay? So for instance, if I want to basically go here to the very beginning, I'm going to go to the opacity. See, right now it's got that little stopwatch icon, how it's blue. All right, so if I want to make an adjustment, all I have to do is just take my indicator, bring it to the very beginning of my layer, and now I'm going to bring it all the way down to 0. Okay, so now, as you can see, voila, okay, wasn't so bad. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way here to the very end, and what you can also do is you can take this property right here, this opacity property, which is set at 0. You can Command C and then Command V. Okay, so right now, more or less, there we go. So I like things to kind of line up. So right now, what we have right now is like it starts at 100 and then it goes all the way back down to 0. So what I want to do is actually, since I'm about a second in, I'm going to take this one right here, copy, paste. So what this will do is basically in between these two, this one is opacity of 100 and this one is opacity of 100. So what's going to do is it's going to hold that property between the two keyframes, if that makes any sense, guys. All right. So now it's going to just simply fade out. All right. So let's see what we can do now. I'm going to kind of just build on this. I'm actually going to go into scale, and I'm actually going to make this rather large. And as you can see, you can still see the brackets of the layer. Okay. So I'm actually going to scale it up here, and then I'm going to bring it all the way down here, and I'm going to bring the scale all the way down to, oh, maybe not that, like maybe 90. There we go, 90%. So what I like to add, like, you know, when it comes to blocking, I like to kind of like add like animations and secondary animations. It makes it look more interesting, more visually dynamic. But simple stuff like that, guys, okay? So let's see. So what I'm going to do here, let's say I also want our this to kind of fade in. What you can do one of two things. You can go from like black and you can, you know, basically have a nice little, you know, layer upon layers, or, you know, you can, you know, maybe adjust it. And then have it fade out. Or let's see. And I apologize, guys. I kind of get really into this, so it's like I try to kind of like at least get you guys hopefully interested in what you guys are seeing and how you guys can kind of play around with this. But this is essentially what I want your 3 titles to be. You know, really simple stuff. I don't want you guys to slather a bunch of effects on something. I want you guys to use this as a time to kind of get used to using the keyframes. Okay. To understand how all this stuff works. You guys have any questions? Anything you want me to show you so far?
Have you opted text again, where you say like text appears, text disappears?
Oh, you like with these right? The little markers? This little guy right here. If you see right here at the very end, it looks like a little like baseball diamond kind of deal. It's very unassuming, but he is one of the most important people, or one of the most important tools. This guy, you just click, there you go. So wherever your indicator is, your marker will show. You can move the marker if you want to. You can even right click. You can delete this marker. So it totally depends on you. You can, you know, create another one, and you can move it. You can even lock markers. So if you need to lock markers, and this way you don't accidentally like shift it around, that's something you can do. You can unlock markers if you need to. You know, again, you can go into the settings and make adjustments, give it a color. We'll get more into protected region, and I'll show you guys how to basically like create like highlighted block offs inside your timeline. That'll be super useful for when you guys want to be doing your lyric videos. Okay. All right. Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys, because I have no problem repeating myself, honestly. I'd rather that you guys keep asking me the same question again and again. All right, delete this marker. So, so right now that's a text layer. But let's say I want to add like a little bit of like a really cool like secondary animation, secondary element. Ooh. What I can do is I can go into layer, new, and I'm going to create a shape layer, and we'll go more into shape layers in the coming weeks because they can get really complicated really quickly. But for doing something simple, what I'm about to show you, I'm just going to show you guys how to do a quick, just like a quick like backing for this title. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically like name it, and I'm going to call this backing. And again, labeling your layers is really, really important. So I'm going to bring this layer now behind the title layer, and I'm going to, since we got some content in here, I'm actually going to take my my rectangle. Now, if you'll notice that when it comes to shape layers need content. So you can either draw one out with using the shapes here, and holding down the mouse, you can see you can, you know, create ellipses, stars, rectangles. You can even make your own shapes using the pen tool, which we'll get more into in the coming week. I think actually probably I might actually do this, show you guys how to use it maybe on Wednesday. Yeah, why not? You know, a little bit of a shakedown. So let me just quickly, actually I want to see, there we go. I'm going to basically draw it out. Just drag and draw. So now we've got basically black, like a black solid. What we can do is we go up to here. Now that we have our rectangle tool open, I'm just going to go into the fill, Actually, I'm just going to go into the fill, the text, and I'm just going to quickly just get rid of the fill. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of a stroke. So I'm going to give it, yeah, so stroke options, perfect. And let's see. There we go. And actually, I'm going to adjust the color. So I'm going to go in and there we go. And you know what? Let's see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take the transform nodes of my scale, copy, and I'm going to go into, now I could go into the rectangle itself, because if you notice when it comes to a shape layer, you can give different shapes inside one layer transform properties. But in this case right now, I'm just going to go to the very bottom, and this is the transform properties of the layer itself, if that makes any sense. So let's see, I just basically just hit the scale, and I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to hit Control V, and let's see. Oh my. All right, so I'm actually going to bring this down just a little bit. There we go. And let's see. Ooh. There's also another way you can do this, an easier way, but I'm going to show you how to quickly. I'll show you guys how to also do pick whip, how to do parenting. Actually, that actually does sound like a lot easier. Why am I doing it like this? So what I'm going to do is, let's see, there we go. So what you can actually do is I'm actually going to take this layer, and you've got the parent and link. Sorry guys, I'm going a little bit ahead, but this is why I'm recording it, so you guys can know how to use these tools. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you want to make sure that this box kind of sort of follows the duration of scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the pick whip, this little swirly icon right here. And for those of you guys who don't know, After Effects is primarily a node-based program. So what that essentially means is that you can essentially connect information from one aspect of what's on your project to another. So right now, what that basically means in layman's terms, I'm just going to take this little swirl and I'm going to basically tether it right now. I'm taking the shape of the rectangle and I'm tying it up to, I'm going to tether it to the text. So now what that means is, let's take a look. Hopefully this will work. There we go. So now what you're seeing essentially is the you're basically seeing the what do you call it? The box essentially following your text. So it's not, you don't have to worry too much about having to add scale and what's the word I'm looking for? Keyframes. But I am still going to add some keyframes to the opacity. And I'm going to bring it a little tip, holding down Shift has, when you're moving stuff around, it snaps. Okay. And there we go. Control V and Control V. There we go. So if I'm going too fast, guys, and again, I don't expect you guys to know all like the quick shortcuts immediately. This is just something I'm just showing you guys how to do. So eventually, you know, don't be afraid to kind of like go slow with this. Just want you guys to get comfortable with it. Now, I will tell you guys this as well. I'm used to working with 2 screens. So one of the cool things about After Effects is that it's modular. So you can essentially shift windows around. You know, it comes to the territory. So again, you can also make some adjustments too, you know, with the because I get like the graphic designer in me, kind of like, oh, gotta make an adjustment. All right. So this is pretty much simple for your first assignment. I want you guys to essentially know how to do this, how to basically how to bring stuff in, how to animate them using the keyframes here. Again, you don't have to go too much into position yet or scale yet. Simple opacity is fine if you need to. But does anybody have any questions? Anything?
Were you gonna upload this recording?
Yeah. Usually I put that on my YouTube channel, and then I usually will share the YouTube channel on my announcements. Okay. So let's see. Oh, and don't forget to save. Now, here's what's really important. So now, when you guys are done. Let's say you like where everything is. Now I'm going to show you guys how to quickly make the video. So my process, there's two different ways to go about it. I will usually start off with File, Export. Some people will add Media Encoder, and I have no problem with that because I think there's things that Media Encoder can do that the render queue can't. So just always be aware of which projects, and we'll go over both of them, both processes. But for the sake of this one, I usually just go to Add Render Queue, and I open that up. And as you can see, it opens up the tab right here. Now, your demo is still here, or your composition is still here. It's just another tab is opened up. So that's basically saying, okay, now we have this in the queue. You want to turn this into a video. One of the things that I will usually start off with is I'll look at my output module, and usually the default is H.264, which is usually what I prefer for my assignments. So H.264 is essentially MP4. It's the MP4 for codecs. Sometimes people will try to avoid QuickTime for my assignments. I usually don't. I don't like to open up. I don't have QuickTime on my computer, so I would just say go with H.264. Channels, everything seems to be RGB, perfect. Press OK, and then you have output 2, and then what that basically means, it's its way of saying where do you want this. So if you guys, I believe Premiere has the same setup. So I click on that, and that's not mine. Let me go in and let me find out where my original users, desktop, okay, titles. And I usually put mine, and this is kind of how I normally set up my project's final output. This is essentially, it's an easy folder setup for me. I try to be organized because I got a lot of stuff on my computer, so when it comes to projects, I try to keep what they call good desktop hygiene, essentially. So final output, I'm going to hit save, and it's going to be demo MP4, and then I'm just going to hit render, and simple, done. And it was a very quick and easy project, so let's take a quick look. And where did I put it? Where is, okay. I do not like Macs. I'm sorry, guys. I just hate Macs. I'm sorry. I used to love Macs, and then I stopped using them. I have no idea where I am. Oh boy. You know what? I'm just going to go in and just going to, the old-fashioned way, AE titles, boom, there, demo. Abracadabra, guys. Easy right now. That's basically your first assignment. Easy as pie, really. For those of you guys, I start off with the basics, okay? Any questions so far? Okay, so that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically essentially upload this for you guys to refer to. And I want you guys, what time is it now? It's 2, so you guys have about an hour and a half. I would say, if you guys want to, start off with working on those 3 titles, you know, and then you can basically just, you know, get that done. If you guys experience any difficulty or any technical issues, you know, this is a great time for me to kind of like, hey, raise your hand saying, Professor, how do I circumvent this? Okay? All right. Cool. Now I'm going to figure out how to get my video. Let's see. I'm going to stop recording.